Yo, what's good, people? It's your boy Daniel back alongside my co-host, the one, the only Jay Instrumental, aka Mr. Jamell, aka Him Jong-un, aka Himmy Turner. But we're back with another episode of Soul Exp The Podcast.
Don't forget Timothy Chalamet.
Timothy Chalamet. But yo, we back. We got another episode coming to you guys, and we're just excited to be back, man. Excited to be here, sitting down, of course, at the Gentleman's Factory.
Yes, sir.
Check them out.
Factory.
Of course, you know what they're about. Thank you to the Gentleman's Factory for having us. You guys saw the last setup in the last video, so we about to continue in the same laid-back style. Right here, we got the camera. Y'all check this out right here. For those of you wondering where I'm from right here, Guyana. So had to plug the 592 real quick. Jamell, don't you roll your eyes at me, boy.
I didn't roll my eyes.
Yeah, no, you did. I saw you.
Nah.
I saw you. But
Never that.
today on this episode, what we're going to get into is our theme is follow the signs. So follow the signs. I want you guys to remember that as we get started on that in a bit. But Jamell, talk to me, brother. How you been?
I'm doing good, bro. How you been, man? It's been a long few weeks. I don't think I've talked to you in a few days, but it's always a good time being around you, my brother. You know, I always feel in a very comfortable state. We can joke, we can laugh, we can talk serious, we can talk about life, you know, and that's something important about brotherhood. You feel me?
Oh, no, I definitely agree.
Something very important about brotherhood.
You know, summer's winding down, back to the schedule, back to doing, you know, just, I know as an educator, I guess summers, so, you know. Now I got to go back out there. How did the year not start? I'm already tired. I should have slept more, but you know, it is what it is.
Hey,
it is
he's
what
getting
it is.
it done. You know why? Because he's Ben Himmons. You feel me?
Ben Him. That's a new one.
Joel Embiid.
You know, I've heard people tell me I look like Joel Embiid. I look like John Washington. I look like Kyrie Irving.
Donald Glover.
I look like OJ Mayo. I just
Malcolm X.
And what I say every time I hear that is it seems racially motivated. No, but on a serious note, man, it's definitely a pleasure to be back here with you. I thought you was about to leave me hanging, to be honest. I was about to say.
Never that, brother.
Never that. But yeah, we've been, as you guys have noticed, we've been pushing out some content. We've been doing more and more things as a collective, but also individually. I know that Jay has been working on an album, but I'm gonna keep that a little bit hush hush.
Yeah, that's on the low.
That's on the low. If you follow the podcast,
but just know something's coming soon.
Oh.
Something's coming soon.
Oh, and you pointed the camera? Okay, him.
They gonna know.
Okay, Jimi Hendrix.
Look at me. Something gonna happen, man.
Something gonna happen. But yo, let's get into it, man. So,
Sure.
Talking about follow the signs, right?
Yes,
what exactly is today's team about, Jamell?
So following the signs, because I think this is something that's been very, very, very vivid in our lives. Something that's been going on a lot of times in our day-to-day is there's so many different signs in regards to maybe if it's God or just purpose, mission, vision. There's so many different things that are like clear signs on our path or what needs to be positioned in our path to understand this is something that we have to go through. This is something that we have to bear through. Or this is something that, why are you hesitating? You're in alignment. Stop hesitating. Take action.
Sometimes what about even following the signs that what you're doing isn't the right thing or that you're on the wrong path? And like, even though you're barreling forward, and some people might say, oh, well, you know, when opposition happens, I follow the signs to barrel through that opposition. But how do you then differentiate what is something that's there showing you signs, yo, slow down, you know, like exit signs on the highway that tell you this is where you're supposed to get off? How do you know that, all right, well, I'm following the signs, at what moment do I get off? So I think that's kind of some of the stuff that we're thinking about when we say follow the signs for the theme of this episode, for our viewers, as well as those that are listening to us, getting a sense of exactly what does follow the signs mean and how is that even linked to creativity? You know what I mean?
I think so. For like the analogy of like the exit sign. So like you're saying, like when do you know when is the right exit to get off at,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe which one you should get on. You feel
Mm-hmm.
me? I think ultimately only God knows our path,
Mm.
right? But at the end of the day, you make decisions, and we are going to make decisions. And if it is the wrong decision, we can just correct it by making another decision.
Mm.
You feel me? If you're as a president, you make decisions. If it's a bad decision, just make another decision and hope it's a good decision. You know? And obviously they're calculated. Every decision should be calculated. Majority of them should be calculated. I want to correct that because I think it is different to say, "Oh, this is a perfect calculated decision. Everything's going to be perfectly," because, like we know in the game of chess, you know, one person can just make one move and it just makes your whole plan go
Exactly.
disarray. Now you have to pivot. You feel me? So now when it comes to, that goes back, now we can get more deep into creativity. When it comes to a goal, a task, when it comes to a project that you're working on, things are never going to always go in your way.
Yeah.
You feel me? But you're going to have to understand how to pivot sometimes. And then in doing so, you have to be observant of what is fitting in this position, what is fitting in this time, what is going to be productive for your environment. You have to be following those signs and be very observant and safeguard your environment because that's a very important part of your success.
And so how do signs then come? Because I know when we're talking about signs, like is it a conversation, let's say that you have with a close friend, or you're scrolling on Instagram and then you see a post that says, this is your sign to get off Instagram and do what you said you would do? Or is it even something that's physically manifested in the sense of, I'll give you an example. So a few weeks ago, as you know, I was going through something that was really, really hectic. Bunch of situations came up all at once that I had to handle.
Yeah.
So I remember as I'm handling and I'm going through, I woke up the next morning and I have an orchid. And my orchid hadn't been flowering for a few months. But I woke up that morning and I saw these rose petals, right? And I was like, wow, that's a sign that everything is going to be okay. Now, I know some people would listen to that, hear that, and be like, man, you're just looking for meaning in something that is just routine. Like, of course, it's a flower, it's a plant. Plants go through seasons of bloom and when they're not blooming, right? So you're making more of it than it really, really is. So what would you then say to counter that? Because for me, like I said, I took that as a sign. And since then, I wouldn't say that everything has been perfect, but things have been moving in the right direction.
Falling into place a little bit better.
Exactly. So is that because I looked and I took that plant as a sign and changed my thinking? Or is that it actually was a sign that, new life. So the situation that you're in, there's new life that's coming to that situation.
Well, I think when it comes to what other people are going to say, that isn't what their opinion on what you perceived as a sign for you shouldn't really matter. Like, even if you think about it, your creativity and your dreams and your goals, they were put in your head, not in anyone else's.
True.
So you can't necessarily rely on, you're just reading into it too much. Like, you thought that was a sign, this, that, and the third. Nah, you're reading into it. I can give you some ideas of clear signs. And, like, if you want to say, nah, that's just luck, that's a coincidence, nah, that's a sign. When I was looking for new camera setups for our podcast and trying to make sure, I can invest into something valuable, and I see a picture of Aljo Studios on this specific camera set that I got here, which is the place where we did Randy Mason's Tiny Decimation. That was like one of Soul Exp's first collaborative efforts for different.
And that was during the pandemic.
And that was during the pandemic, and that was our first collaborative effort, one of our first collaborative efforts with a creative, right? And for me to see that, I was like, wow. I was looking at the camera. It already looked it's a Mevo camera set, Logitech. It comes with 3 cameras, and I'm looking at it. I'm hesitating. Like, even though it looked like the one I wanted, right? It looked like the one I wanted, but I was still hesitating on taking the action that I was supposed to take. I was still hesitating. And it took that sign for me to see that, randomly decide, looking at the specs, to make the decision. And that took away any hesitation that I had.
So signs then, it sounds like we're saying that signs come to give you clear direction, right?
Yeah.
Is that essentially what we're saying about signs?
I can say it can give you clear direction, and it can give you direction in a way that you might have not foreseen. Because you can always have your path and your goals, but sometimes you can only see yourself go so far. When I was at InvestFest, Tyler Perry was talking about how Earn Leisure was telling them that how they wanted InvestFest to be like, I think they might have referenced it to Coachella or something like that, something big like that. And then Tyler Perry said to them, this is a billionaire mindset. He said to them, that's it? Ooh, that's it? And you got to think about that. Like he said, don't confine yourself to being the next of what already someone else has, because you can be the next which could be greater. You know, there could be signs that are greater. There could be areas where maybe God has for you, where your vision and your purpose is going to take you, that can be greater and more grandiose than the things that you're trying to set yourself to. So never really confine yourself to that. Obviously, that's a step in your process, but make sure you're getting to a point in your life where you're not confining yourself to confining yourself to a reality. You're just continuing to make your reality as you go on by.
And as you're making that reality, that then goes on to shape your expression as well as your experience, right?
Yes.
So I remember when I was doing the book, and I was remastering it during the summer, as you know, and I was sitting down and I was going through and everything, and I had gotten an email from someone from 2 years ago, a professor that I'd went on a trip with to El Paso, Texas. I don't know why I just blanked on that for a second. And I looked at you like when I went to, and you're like, I don't know where you went, bro. Yeah, but either way, when I got that email, just checking in and asking me how things are going, how did my project ever turn out? While I was doing the second one, I was like, there's an example of someone asking about a project the minute that I've started doing it again and making it better than it was originally. You know what I mean? So I continued to do that. Then when I finished, the day that I fully finished doing everything, I woke up and on Instagram, there was this video of the cops beating this guy outside of his car that was caught by someone recording in their car. And I looked at it and I was like, wow. As sad as the video was and how angry it made me feel, it also gave me a sense of this is why what I was doing was important. This is why what I'm doing, I've been on the right track. But also, through the book, I realized that as I was going so hard in terms of trying to get everything done, productivity, making sure that I had this and I had this set launch date in mind, I was neglecting other areas that would have posed a potential problem in getting the book fully published and everything, and I wasn't waiting. And that was a sign for me, that, yo, what you're doing is great, what you're doing is important, but maybe slow down a bit. Now's not the right time. You know what I mean?
I get you, man. I feel you. And I think that's important to understand that in times where you feel that you are doing everything the right way and okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. But it's like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? There's more to it than just that. And when you plan, God laughs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we have to be understanding of the different dualities of how we can be stuck in one perspective of how we want to have life go for us versus how we need to be able to focus on just doing doing the little things the right way.
Yeah.
And when you just focus on that end goal, some things are bound to go in disarray in the middle. Mm-hmm. And the middle is always going to look disarray in the process and the journey. Mm-hmm. You feel me? Because I heard this metaphor from, I think, one of my mentors, Taylor Welch, and he was talking about how we compare ourselves a lot to other people's growth. Mm-hmm. And also, sometimes we can even look at our current situation as we're all along the process in our journey to the end goal and get lost and maybe lose sight of the vision. And the metaphor was like he was talking about when you're baking a cake, right? You got all the ingredients and you're making it, and someone comes in and walks in and they see it in the middle of the process and like, it's a mess in here. And he's like, why are you talking about my situation? Like, you're seeing me in the middle of the process. You don't see the end goal yet. You feel me? And honestly, only he had the end goal in mind, so he knew what was going to come out. And so, in things like this, I encourage everyone to never be discouraged in a setback. They're important.
Because are setbacks then a sign of keep moving forward? Because it then goes back to that original question about how do I know that this setback is something that is meant for me to stop what I'm doing because maybe this isn't meant for me.
That's going to be ultimately up to the person, I believe.
Why so though?
Because it's only they have to make the choice. They have the decision, and I believe that we have to be able to take a choice, make a choice, and own up to it. If it's just be honest with yourself, make a decision. That's how That's how we play in chess. You know what I'm saying? We just gotta make a decision quickly, and take the most calculated one. And what do you feel is best? And if it's the wrong decision, okay, that's the wrong decision, but at least you made a decision.
Yeah.
You feel me? And I think setbacks, I think it's only going to be something that you can take a step, if you need to take a step back and it's the right move, then and you genuinely feel it's the right move, then you should take it. But I always say, and also Mike Tyson always says, you get knocked down 100 times, you get up 100 times, you learn 100 lessons. You feel me? So you should be able to really push forward, persevere, strive towards the greatest, and just keep, I think forward momentum and progression is always what I strive for, what I'm looking for. And so I encourage all my peers, everyone out here watching, I encourage everyone to be able to really go after their goals no matter what, and do not allow certain setbacks to daunt you and not allow you to really achieve those goals.
Yeah. And I was thinking, right, because we're talking about creativity and science and everything, but even in our everyday there's so many signs that we see. If you think about it, right? And I'll give the classic example. You meet someone and you're like, I really like this person. I really, really like this person. And you say, I'm just going to see how things play out, right?
Yeah.
You're seeing how things play out. That person does something that is a red flag for you, right? And you're like, wait a minute. All right.
Wait a minute.
All right, let's see. Cool. But I still like this person. That's something that I'm willing to accept because we all do it. We all compromise on certain things, especially in relationships, right?
Valid.
So something else happens that you go again, that's another red flag. And when I say red flag, not necessarily something huge, but in the sense of where your values probably don't align, in the sense of what you want for yourself out of a relationship, but because you really, really like this person, you're willing to accept certain things. So let's fast forward. You and this person end up getting together. You're in a relationship. You stay together. But now the things that you saw initially as signs that maybe this isn't sustainable are now coming to fruition. But you saw those signs originally, but you ignored them. So that's just a classic example in life of where things happen. And then on the flip side, you see great things from people and what they're doing consistently. You know that saying, when someone shows them who you are, believe them. I think that's also true to life, because how many times have you been in a situation where you're sitting and you're thinking, man, I need to do this. This is something that I need to do. I remember one time I was thinking, I was on the train and I was heading home. And as I'm heading home, I'm sitting and I'm thinking, I want to start this new project. I want to start fully figuring out what it is exactly, especially as it relates to back home in Guyana and some of the stuff that I want to do. So I get home. As I'm walking home, I run into a guy that's from Guyana. And he and I end up talking, find out where we come from the same city. And as we're talking, he says something to me that triggers in my mind exactly what I was thinking about, while I was on the train. So in my head, I don't tell him that, but in my head, I'm thinking, all right, that's one thing. So I was just thinking about it. Randomly, I meet someone that's from Guyana, which is where I'm thinking about what I'm thinking about, who then brings it up in conversation. And now, as I'm heading home, I go on and I log on LinkedIn, and I see a post from someone that works in education talking about one of the initiatives that I was thinking about while on the train that just happened to come up while I was talking to the guy who was from Guyana. So those are the signs and the things, the little thing. And people think about signs, and the normal thing we say is, oh, what a coincidence. That's a coincidence that I was thinking about the exact same thing. Look at me and you, even with this podcast.
Yeah.
Look at this. Yo, I was thinking about a podcast. Bro, no way. Me too. And as I was thinking about it, I was thinking about who I would want to work together with to do this with. I was thinking about you too.
Yeah.
Really? And now here we are in a situation where we're doing something all because of these little things that are quote unquote coincidences. Like you miss your train sometimes, and by missing your train, you end up running into someone that you would have otherwise not ran into.
Yeah.
Like I remember even Annalise.
Yeah.
Meeting Annalise. And
shout out to Annalise Zadian, very dope artist. Y'all check her out.
Absolutely fire. But on the 4 train, my train was delayed, so I went downstairs to get a pack of nuts and came back upstairs. And as I came back upstairs, got on the train, I was like looking at this girl. I was like, she looks really, really interesting. And she's sitting scribbling in a notebook. And from there grows this conversation as I was also thinking about what types of people I wanted to interview to continue telling stories about that encompass what New York City is. So you see just little things like that you think are coincidences, but science.
I would agree. And like, even to go back to, how we decided to do this, like, for me, it stemmed from when we did the article, the Turning Words into Windows article, and
2 years ago.
2 years ago, and the way you wrote, like, you literally turned those words into a window into my life. Like, the way you wrote it was so eloquently done that, and in the conversation that we had, even through the interview process, or just, it was just a conversation. It just felt like a genuine conversation. And I was very appreciative of what we were able to do. And I was remembering that feel and that experience and how good it was to be able to have us really have a genuine conversation, but it was really impactful, and it really dove into purpose and into music and into creativity in general.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I feel like what I want people to come away with, and even for you, Jay, if you had to wrap this up and put a little ribbon on it about following the signs, what would you say? Because for me, I would say, don't discredit the little things that you see in your life on a day-to-day basis, because all those things are pointing you to where you need to be. And if you sit and think about it, even though you may not be right now where you want to be at the end of your life, you're still in the exact place that you're supposed to be in this current moment of your life. Because that's what creates those experiences. That's what creates those expressions. Because I think about my life over the last year, this year, and how many things have happened to propel me into a point where I start thinking, am I on the right path? Am I doing the right things? And we've definitely had those conversations. And when I look at the signs as to some of the major events that have happened in my life, I think, again, that is testament to the fact that I may not be where I want to be, but I'm exactly where I need to be.
Yes, indeed.
So, yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And that's, man, I could attest to that too. There's so many areas of my life where it's like, okay, this is what I wanted. I wanted it this way specifically. But then, for some reason, I get put in situations and circumstances where it wasn't the ideal situation for me. Yeah. But I still got put in the exact situation that I wanted in a different way. Yeah. But not in a way I wanted to, but in a way I needed to be there. And that's another thing. You'll be positioned in a way that's going to actually benefit you, and everything is not. Anything that happens to you is you need to look at it from the perspective of not why is this happening to me, but you need to look at it from the perspective of how is this working for me.
How am I meant to learn from this, right?
Yes, like how is this working for my good, for my betterment, for my advancement? And if you look at it from that perspective, it's going to change it. And I feel like it'll even give you just a bit more gratitude for life, because you're going to understand that, this is going to be a learning lesson.
So you're just basically saying you need to have a new sense of perspicacity.
A new sense of perspicacity.
Those of you who've been with us watching every episode, you'll know what perspicacity is. I know what that callback is meant. If you don't know, you got to check the other episodes out.
Indeed.
But that's how we're gonna end today's episode. Actually, we're gonna end it on this note. So when you're thinking about signs and looking at the things that are happening in your everyday life, just remember that there is so much that you can learn and that you can take, and even if it might seem small and inconsequential, there still is meaning and purpose behind it, pushing you towards where you need to be, which is exactly where you want to be. So I'm Daniel, saying thank you guys for tuning in with us today, alongside my boy Jamell.
Yes, sir, my brother. Yes, sir. And y'all, again, shout out to Gentleman's Factory. This is where we build, this is where we network, and this is where we make the community better, man. Get yourself a membership, or just come along, just feel the vibes, just feel the experience here. It's amazing. I recommend everyone just at least come and visit the Gentleman's Factory. And shout out to Jeff Linder, who started this, and the whole team, including my boy Dietrich. Yes, sir. And shout out to Roman in the back, man. Roman, do you want to say something to the people?
No, I'm good.
Shout out to Roman.
Shout out to Roman, man. He's holding it down with the camera setup. He's a savant at photography, videography, and music. He's an all-around creative, and I'm happy to have him part of my life, man. So, indeed, shout out to you, Roman.
So, guys, have a great week, and let your creativity shape your experience and the expression. Take care. Hey, everyone, this is Daniel alongside
Jamell.
And we just want to say thank you for tuning in to another episode of Soul Exp The Podcast. We appreciate all the support. We appreciate the love, the comments, the feedback, everything. So we just wanted to say thank you for, tuning in and rocking with us for the last few weeks and the weeks to come.
Yes, indeed. Thank you guys very much. It means so much for all the love and support that we're getting. And we just want to keep providing you guys value, and let's keep making experiences.
Let's keep making experiences.